Today we're going to talk about a monster that features in a film that many consider to be the most controversial monster film of all time. Godzilla, or Zilla, or Gino, whatever you want to call this thing. Through the years, this fish-eating titan has garnered quite a cult following, gaining a fan base that appreciates it for its different take on the king of the monsters, especially after the animated series became a hit amongst fans for actually doing Godzilla justice. In the past, we've discovered the fact the 1998 film was meant to be the first of a trilogy that unfortunately never came to be due to underwhelming critical and box office results.
He was basically just this impersonal, uninteresting, giant lizard that seemed to cause most of its damage by accident, waving its tail around.
Yeah. But thanks to this failure, it's paved the way for the MonsterVerse to be created, giving fans a new series created by fans for fans that respects the creature's origins. But recently, thanks to an ever-increasing group of people that grew up watching the movie, more and more people have been wanting to see Zilla return one way or another. So, could he work with the current ongoing series, the MonsterVerse? And how could he appear? Well, residents, let's take a look. I'm Alistair, and welcome to DangerVille. Welcome back. We've all seen the film. A monster is created by nuclear tests in French Polynesia and then begins attacking fishing vessels in the Pacific. The US State Department gets involved and interviews a survivor of one of its attacks, calling the monster
Godzilla.
Not long after, the creature makes landfall for New York in an attempt to find a sustainable food source. However, it's forced into a retreat by the military. After an NRC scientist, Nick Tatopoulos, uses its blood on a pregnancy test, it's found the creature is both female and pregnant, and can reproduce asexually. This explains why the creature is looking for an even greater food source. The military proceeds to dispense a lot of fish to lure it into the city in order to kill it, against the will of the scientist who wants to study it. The plan works as Godzilla begins eating away at the food. The military takes their chance to kill the creature and begins to open fire, taking substantial collateral damage, destroying several buildings including the Chrysler Building. Godzilla dives into the Hudson River to escape, but it's seemingly killed by Navy submarines. Although in Madison Square Garden, it's found the monster has laid hundreds of eggs, and they're ready to hatch, but the eggs are successfully destroyed by a military airstrike. But it's found Godzilla isn't dead after all, and she bursts from underground to come to her baby's aid, only to find the charred corpses of what were once her offspring. In a blind fury, Godzilla engages in a chase with the ones responsible for their deaths. But in her rage, she becomes entangled in the Brooklyn Bridge, and the military takes their chances using aircrafts to fire missiles at the defenseless Godzilla. After taking several hits, the creature collapses, giving up her fight and accepting her fate, falling to the hands of humanity, the ones who both created her and now killed her. In regards to powers, Zilla doesn't have that many at its disposal. This was very much deliberate in an attempt from Roland Emmerich to make this iteration of Godzilla more realistic, replacing the atomic breath with methane breath. With all the rotting fish in its teeth and stomach, Godzilla has methane breath, which is flammable, and when combined with an open flame, projects an intense fireball at anything in the vicinity of its roar. Although it should be noted that in the animated series, the creative team decided to give Godzilla back his iconic atomic breath, but this time in a green blast, used in his fights against a variety of weird and wacky monsters. Agility. This creature is incredibly fast and agile, possibly being the fastest iteration of the character to date, able to walk on all fours like a crocodile and burst into a full sprint, something Godzilla can rarely do due to his sheer weight and size. Burrowing. Unusually, this iteration of the King of the Monsters can burrow into the ground, something never done before by this character. This gives him the ability to escape encounters and outmaneuver and flank enemies. breed. Yes, I said breed. This version of Godzilla can reproduce asexually, meaning there will never be only one of this animal. As long as it's alive, it can reproduce, as it did in New York, where it laid over 200 eggs. But as for weaknesses, this creature is possibly the most vulnerable in the series, since it lacks the thick hide that both Toho's and Legendary's Godzillas have. Missiles are not only able to penetrate Zilla's skin, but even kill it, something that's annoyed quite a few fans to say the least. And whilst the methane breath is an interesting way to bring fire breath into reality, it's nothing compared to the sheer destruction caused by Godzilla's atomic breath. Now that's enough about its strengths and weaknesses, let's talk about how it could fit in the MonsterVerse. Believe it or not, I do actually like the 1998 film. It holds a special place in my heart and served as my introduction into the series when I was a kid, as it was for many others. And I would like to see Zilla again in a film, but what could that film be? Well, of course, the next MonsterVerse film is up in the air. Currently, I've been calling it Godzilla VS Kong 2, simply because it would technically be a follow-up to Godzilla vs. Kong. As we know it, the rights for Godzilla are meant to return to Toho after the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. But after the film's success, I wouldn't be surprised if Legendary renewed their contract with Toho to make more films with the King of the Monsters. But let's just say they don't renew the license for Godzilla, there is a cheaper alternative: Zilla. Since the rights reverted from Sony back to Toho in 2003, Zilla isn't important to Toho's plans and would be leased to Legendary for a far cheaper price. Now, I highly doubt the next film would be Kong vs. Zilla, although I already did that. There have been talks that the next MonsterVerse film could be Son of Kong. So with the license, Legendary could transform the 1998 Godzilla into a creature of the Hollow Earth, a suitable replacement for Gorosaurus, one of Toho's original creatures. We barely scratched the surface on what the Hollow Earth contains. Who knows what monstrous creatures live throughout the land? One of those creatures could be Zilla, a subspecies of Godzilla that hunts in packs, surviving like wild dogs. They could be one of the many species that Kong faces down in his new kingdom. Seeing the design return would no doubt be nostalgic for a lot of people, and fans of the 1998 film would flock to check out the monster they grew up with in stunning new visual effects, fighting the one and only King Kong. We've seen the Skullcrawlers utilizing caverns to attack and travel, although we've never seen the full potential of their ability to burrow. But we do know Zilla's species is extremely capable at burrowing underground, which would make combat against these creatures incredibly dynamic. Just imagine them jumping from underground in large packs, overwhelming their prey and dragging them down into the dirt. They could be a terrifying antagonist. We've spoke about Kong using Skullcrawlers to his advantage, using them in a similar way to attack dogs, but imagine if he uses Zilla's species instead of Skullcrawlers. That would definitely be a sight unlike any other. But will it happen? Well, the chances are, even with the rising appreciation for Godzilla 1998, Legendary and the higher-ups deem it too much of a risk financially. The film is still looked at unfavorably by quite a few people, and in their eyes they'd rather create a new monster like the Skullcrawlers instead of shell out for a monster some people still hate, which is unfortunate because there's a lot you can do with this monster, but instead it'll continue to fade into obscurity. But who knows, maybe Zilla will pop up again at some point. There was a time when Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan and Mechagodzilla being in the MonsterVerse was wishful thinking, so maybe Legendary will pull something out their sleeve. For now, we can only dream. Or nightmare, depends whether you're pro-Zilla or anti-Zilla. I'd personally love to see this design make a resurgence in the series. It holds a special place in my heart, and after creating this channel and reading your comments, it seems like there's a big community of fans that also love the 1998 film for what it is. But what do you think? Would you like to see Zilla in the MonsterVerse? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like, because it helps this video reach even more fans. Don't forget to subscribe and stomp that notification button to become a resident of DangerVille today. I've been Alistair, and we'll see you residents in the next one.